Hi, everyone. I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot and very happy to be here today. So I have Dr. SHARNAEL Wolverton Sehon. I hope I'm saying all those names right. With me today, and it's really lovely to have you here, SHARNAEL. And you have such an unusual name. Maybe you can tell us where that all came from. But today we're turning tables because you interviewed me last week and I'm interviewing you this week. And then we're going to do a part two with me tomorrow. So a lot of back and forth with us, and that's a lot of fun. So welcome to the show, and say hello to everyone.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, everybody. Just such an honor to do anything with you. You're just amazing, and I love you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so you are pretty amazing too, apparently, and you are what's called an ND, naturopath doctor and a minister, and you teach divine health in the human body. You're what's called a crown diamond in young living, which I don't know what that is, but we can ask you. And you're passionate about reconciling all people to an integrative life, mind, body, and soul, teaching in over 44 countries, having 15,000 clients in those countries, and an influence on social media. So you've authored 5 books, and one is called The Science of Miracles, Remembering the Frequency of Love. And the other is Keto Reset 31 Days to New Life, as well as a card deck, Crystals, Oils, and Decrees card deck, which it goes on about divine science and consciousness, epigenetics, quantum health, etc. So, and you live in LA, meaning, is that Louisiana or
yeah,
LA?
Lower LA. Yeah, I'm actually from Montana. Yeah, I'm actually from Montana. My dad was in the service, so we lived overseas mostly, and then in the northern areas. And then when he was deployed, we would go back to Montana. But I'm here right now. Yes, I'm here right now.
Okay, great. And I'm going to try to get you on the screen here. So something we're going on with this, but at any rate, so what I'd like to do is talk about, again, your name, because it's really unusual. And where did that come from?
Well, that was actually that still is part of my story. When I spoke with you off camera, at one point, I had talked to you about some MyLab things that happen and off-planet things that happen. And that's a whole nother deal. But my mom was actually given my name in a dream when she was pregnant with me. So among other things that happened while she was pregnant with me, she was also given my name. She didn't know what it meant. And a matter of fact, it was a dream. And so when she woke up, she couldn't remember the dream. And so I wasn't named right away because she was just plagued with making sure it was the name that they had given her. And she went to a couple baby showers right within the time of me being born, or her friends being born. And one was a Michelle, and one was a Sharon. And then she realized sitting there just came to her SHARNAEL. Now, it wasn't until I was 25 years old that I actually even knew what the name meant. I really didn't like my name. Oh, and by the way, I was born at 3:33, and the doctor who delivered me, his name is Dr. Harold Messenger, which I think is interesting. It's the same doctor who delivered my mother. I still don't know the 100% understanding of all of that, but Harold Messenger, kind of interesting. And when I did find out at 25 that my name is Hebrew, which whatever, but Sharna means rose, El is of God. It also has to do with electricity, frequency. That's where we get the words like electric, elect. It all has to do with source code. So Sharna also means warrior, which is interesting because So warrior of electricity, currency source, God, and rose, which is, you know, the perfect balance of male, female in connection with electric code, source, God.
Okay, very good. You know, it's fascinating, really. And Sharnael is a very pretty name. So the Wolverton part, did that, how did that, you know, is that, and Sehon, your last name is Sehon. So it always, I assume that's your parents' last name as well, or no?
So Wolverton is still my name. I never took away my maiden name. I was actually married previous and never got married. I mean, never took on anyone's name. I just kept Wolverton. I was the oldest female in my dad's lineage, and there were no boys, and I wanted to carry my name. So I kept my name, and my former actually took my name, which is whatever. So I stayed Wolverton, you know, most of my adult life. And being a doctor and being in social media and traveling and having that brand with everything on it. When I did get married 2 years ago to my childhood sweetheart, I took his name. So now I'm still Sharnael Wolverton, but I'm also Sehon.
Okay. All right. That explains it. So Wolverton is your real last name. That's an interesting last name. And if you don't mind my asking, do you know where Wolverton comes? Like, what country is it from originally, or?
German English.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
And then my mom's side, my dad's mother is Dane. And then my mom's mother is Dane, and my mom's grandfather is Norwegian. So the whole lot more Scandinavian than anything else. And then they came over at 16. So I grew up hearing Scandinavian fluent in the house, and we would go to all the Scandinavian, you know, things. But I also lived in Germany for 4 years as a kid. And then I lived in England a couple times and went to University of London. So I don't know. I'm just a mixed bag of whatever. Aren't we all?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's always fascinating to kind of delve into all that. So can you tell us about the super soldier side of yourself? How does that come about? And what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so that is just, I started having memories that I can literally see myself where I was when I started really having more vivid memories of things. That was at 10 years old. I was in Germany at the time. I believe I had just come back from East Berlin with my parents and seen all the Checkpoint Charlies and what have you. And I'm not sure if the code of being over there or just something opened up. I don't really know. I just know I was I had bunk beds at the time in my room, and I was on the lower bunk, and I was trying to go to sleep. And all of a sudden I started having memories of some things that were very disturbing and also different and really displaced, to be honest. I do remember being even younger and talking to my parents about them watching me from the moon and, you know, just different things that honestly, I don't know, maybe it probably sounds crazy. And then my parents were just like, whatever. I do remember also being able to see code around people, numbers, colors, and different things, especially younger. The older I got, it wasn't as much, but it was reactivated in the late 90s. It's not on 100% all the time. I sense it more than I see it anymore, but there are times when it completely turns on and I don't know how to make it go on or off. I wish I could have more control about that kind of thing. Maybe it's just a learning situation, but going back to your question, I didn't even know what that word meant or those two words meant. It wasn't until 2015, late 2015, early 2016, I was diagnosed with cancer and also going through a very difficult marriage breakup situation. And I, you know, it wasn't until talking to you really that I could even identify that maybe that was a turning point of like a wake up for me, I knew it was a wake up on my health, but it seemed to be a wake up in a lot of different things. And so I had spent many years in ministry and in church type programs for a little bit, for about 15 years. And so I had some unprogramming to do. And I think the more that I was deprogramming, and the more I was actually had the courage to seek out some new ideas and different things, having to do with even science-based Kundalini, if you want to call it that, or whatever, and just doing some meditations and reading other books besides the Bible. And, and I love the Bible on a quantum physics level, because I'm crazy about quantum physics and consciousness and just the breadth of words and how it creates. And I think there's a lot left out and displaced and definitely not interpreted or translated correctly, but there's things to it. But I started really doing some investigating, and over about 2 or 3 years had to really just go like, what the crap is even true anymore? Like, what's true? And in the meantime, having all of these like flashes still that were very displaced, and didn't talk to too many people about any of this because it was so random. And then over my life too, having times where I was, missing time, and, lights coming outside my window, and then 8 hours later, 12 hours later, I'm back. And, just lots of things were going on over the years that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. A lot of precog type dreams that I would tell people and they would come true. Some of them on a global level. There's just a whole mess of things going on, but it wasn't until, I'm going to cry. So in May of last year, somebody, I'm so sorry, let me go back. At the beginning of last year, I had ran into a friend who I've known since the 90s. And he had been going through some transition because we were both happened to be in ministry for years at a time, but he was out and I was definitely out, and had changed my vocation to be a naturopath. Went back to school and started this naturopath thing. And we kept up over the years, and we met up for something, and he called me out straight up and he was like, "You're remembering the chair, aren't you?"
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Okay, we're having some connection issues. And I also want to say, I don't know, are you there, Sharnael?
Yes, I'm here.
Internet. Okay, we lost you right there. You're here now, right?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, and just so everyone knows, she's on a phone, and there's a bit of a connection issue. It's normally very good, but just want to say I'm not able to do this Zoom thing where I'm supposed to be able to isolate the pictures or do anything like that. So I can't. It's not acting normal here. We're having some weird, electromagnetic anomalies happening here. So you got interrupted when you were saying about reconnecting with a friend, I think you said, for like a year or a year and a half ago, and that he called you out. What do you mean by he called you out?
Okay. And to go back, this seems to be a normal thing, no matter if I'm on a computer or not. I don't know why this happens in almost any interview that I do. I think it's a frequency thing, but it's okay. We met up about some other things, and he could see, I guess, read in the code or whatever, that I was having these images, and called me out, meaning he said, "You're starting to remember the chair, aren't you?" And I hadn't told anybody. So that was interesting.
Okay, and you're talking about the Montauk chair, I would imagine.
Yes.
Okay, and we actually talked about having some similar things to do with Montauk. So do you want to explain to people, because a lot of people don't know about the chair and certainly won't know what you mean by that?
Yes. So my dad was stationed in Montauk when I was in the 70s. I was born in 70, so I was there from 2000, from 74, I believe, to 76 or 73 to 74 to 77, around that time period. And they were taking me out of the classroom, not just then, but even later in other bases, running tests and doing things. And we were underground. There's just a lot of things that happen underground, including a chair, which, they would put you in a chair, and I don't remember all of it. I just know it kind of looked like a high-tech dentist chair or something. And they could bring you to the future and back in different dimensions, different planets, do all kind of things. And they were using children because they were more empathic and or wouldn't question, I guess, or maybe more formidable to use. And also, from what I understand, I was used because of my bloodline and what they had done in my mom's womb, and also just natural empath abilities. I have a lot of different abilities, and then they've also enhanced. I mean, everyone's got gifts and abilities, everybody. And then there's other things with my lab stuff where they enhance. I know part of my thing is just being able to read people a bit, tell if people are lying, and also connecting on a thought to thought, and with animals specifically too. There was a lot of training having to do with the animals, and even there was also a thing where they would try to get you to tame animals, be with animals, see if you were scared of different animals, put you in cages with dogs and wolves and snakes and insects. It seemed like they tried to get you to almost feel sorry or empathic for, I don't know why this is something I remember, but like insects. Like they wanted you to feel empathic towards ants or small insects. And I can remember even way later in my life, still to this day, I will not step on an ant pile. I will not mess up any, and if there's a bug in my house, I will get a jar and like let it out. If I remember a fly in the car, and I will roll down the window and let it out. I won't kill anything. And also there's been extremely rough animals that people, including a handler, that tried to sick the worst animals on me, and they just completely bow down, and or I don't know, they just sense me and they won't do it. They won't hurt me. So
okay, that's very interesting. I forget which movie. It might have been what do they call, Insurgent or Divergent, or one of those movies where they I don't know if it's that one, but there's a movie where they kind of they show that it's a sequence in which you deal with a ferocious animal, and then they see how you deal with it. But anyway, just happened to remind me of that. But so back to the chair and Montauk. So your father was based. So what did your father do in the military?
There were these big satellite dishes. If you've ever seen anything with Montauk, he did inspections and what have you having to do with that satellite, which I don't know if that's technically a real HAARP kind of stuff or satellite with alien stuff, or I don't know. I've actually tried to talk to him about it even as an adult. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't really know about it or he's just really good at not telling me. But they've had several of these. They had them in Okinawa. They have them in Iceland. They had one in North Dakota and Fortuna, and all of these places my dad was stationed. And I didn't know any of this until, these years that I was really investigating, because once I started figuring out about Montauk, I started asking questions and asking my mom and saying, where was dad stationed? I knew there was a satellite just like that in Fortuna, and we were there. So I asked him about Iceland and Okinawa, and I Googled and looked and just put like satellite and there it was, the picture of the same kind of thing. And I was just like, so dad basically did anything where they went, we went. Now I didn't live in Japan, and I didn't live in Iceland. That was one of the times where he went and we weren't allowed to go. And so I went back to Montana. So, but he was stationed there working on all that.
Okay. So, do you think that your father, is he still alive right now?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Do you think that he has missing time and memories? Like, could his memory be wiped? Or do you think he actually knows, but he has like above top secret clearance, or what's the story?
Believe me, I'm a pretty good bullshit detector, and I've tried all the different ways to talk to him, and he honestly acts like he has no idea about anything. I've even said, like, well, what about like UFOs, and what do you think about off planet? And he was like, I don't know, seems like there might be. And either he's really good or they did wipe him. I know they've wiped me so many times that, even when people ask me point blank questions about time and space, it is really disjointed. Like, real timelines are very disjointed for me, because I think it messed me up a little bit. Like, I'll say, remember that thing that happened the other day? And my husband will be like, baby, that was 4 years ago. Like, I've been so in and out and back and forth that I think that it's like broken on some levels, or maybe there's no time and space for me, but it's something that has been a challenge for me and to even talk about things, because even remembering my kids' birthday and things like that, and then there's other things that are like sharp, like that won't go away, that are just nailed in there. So I don't know.
Okay, well, that's really funny, because I have that same thing. So it has to do with time travel, definitely, and doing a lot of it, so to speak. But okay, so in terms of, I know, I just want to make sure that we go back to the Montauk chair for a minute, because there were, Montauk obviously is also related to the Philadelphia experiment, for those listening. And I think most people will know this by now, and a lot of the information is already out there, but it's not that often that you come across people that have been dealing in their past with Montauk. And I have a history that I don't really talk about. I might have put it in my book, but I don't actually remember if I did. So it's funny when you mentioned it, because I had some stuff with Long Island and Montauk and the whole thing. And so I know things about that, because I was utilized in that also capacity. So you went into underground, right?
Yeah, and I did not technically know it was underground. I just had a feeling that it was. And I know that it was wet on the floor. It was very cold. There were cages of lots of children, lots of animals. We ate dog food, and like when I would have these flashes of this, I mean, as whatever age you are, to go like, why am I thinking about me being in a cage with dogs and, in a dark place? And that's another thing, is they would put us in dark for long, long periods of time, which I now understand as part of the whole psychic abilities thing, where I choose to remember the name, but apparently they do it among like Native Indians and other things. But they call it like witch cradling or something like that. But I mean, again, this is things that, and then what's interesting too is when I moved back to Montana, my grandparents had a German Shepherd, and the dog wasn't allowed in the house. And I always feel like so sorry for it. And there was a little tiny entry point that came in, where they would let it in when it was really freezing cold. And I would stay the night in this little boxy area and eat dog food with the dog. And I was just like 6, 7 years old, and I would get in trouble all the time but it was just normal for me. And like, looking back, it doesn't seem normal. And obviously to them, it wasn't normal. And, who would come up with that, or why would anyone do that, except for those are memories that I had that, so I haven't even shared a lot of this with my parents, but I will say, like, this last year, since all this has come up with the domes, it kind of just like really blew open a lot of the memories. And when I went and talked to my mom, I sat down and I said, Mom, what about being underground? And then she looks at me and she's like, "You're talking about Montauk, aren't you?" Because I needed to know if she knew anything. And I was like, "So you know?" And she was like, "I know that it's underground. I knew that it was underground." So she didn't seem to know about me being a part of any of that, but she did verify to me that this base was underground, and I had no physical knowledge of that. I had not studied any of that. I did not know anything about that in the natural, except for what I had seen in pictures. And the whole thing isn't dark, and you know, there's big technical areas too that are like super high tech and everything. But yeah. And then someone sent me a video of you interviewing some guys. It was actually James Rink was interviewing. I know him now. And you were interviewing
Michael Prince. You mean Michael Prince and Max Spears? That interview. Okay. Yeah.
So that was just the guy that I told you about that had recognized me and remembered me, and he had probably known since the 90s that we were both part of Montauk and that he was part of the chair too, but he never said anything. And I think he probably just thought, well, she doesn't remember. I'm not going to bring it up. Let's not freak this out. But it wasn't until in 2015-16 where he was like, he could tell that I knew. And that's when he said, "Do you remember the chair?" Well, he sends me this video of you guys. And straight away, I saw Max and heard his voice. And I was like, I know him. Like, I know he was like one of my best friends. And I was just completely undone. Like, it was like the code, even that you carry, because you've been around all these people, even when I talk to you or anything, it just more expands and more unlocks. It's the only way I can say it. Reading your book has been very emotional for me because of the code that you carry. And as you write, I can just feel myself expanding because some of these things are turning on that have been dormant and made to be quiet and shut up and not awake to. But I saw Max and I was instantly just happy, as far as like, oh my God, there he is, my best friend. Remembering that I had a best friend, you know, remembering the connection, and you know, just like thinking I have to find him. I cannot wait to be able to be in his presence and talk, and like maybe he can help me remember. And then so I Google just straight away I'm Googling, and then I found out that he had passed. And I wasn't sure if I was going to make it for about 3 days. And I called my friend, and it was just a mixture of all the information, but also like finding him and losing him all at once, like in like 15-20 minutes. I don't know, I just a deep sadness. And
right. I think, you know, that's interesting because, you know, certain people out there do trigger that in a group of people. And you're not the only one. I've heard things about Max Spears like that. But yours is a little unique in the sense that he had already passed on. Most of the people that kind of felt the connection, I guess, found out about him when he was still alive and were trying to contact him and, you know, things like that. So, you know, it's really wonderful that you have the recall and that you got all that. So in a sense, it's still, I don't know if you know who Bariska is. Bariska is one of those people. So Bariska is a child from, you know, he was called the boy from Mars, and he had total recall of his prior life in Mars. And as a young boy used to go around he's Russian. And he's not accessible because I think the Russian government has taken him, you know, under wing and offline, so to speak. But he would be like grown up in his 20s now. But when I interviewed him, he was like, I think 13 or something. And he was just starting to sort of lose some of his memories. But as a young child, you know, he became famous and under notice of the government and so on and so forth. So you should watch that interview sometime and see your reaction. But I have been written to by so many people, especially young people, saying that they know him, that they have to reach him. It's so important, all this kind of thing. And unfortunately, we can't, so far, I can't get back in touch with him. So it's just, there are certain people that are kind of like that kind of thing for certain groups. And I imagine Max Spears is one of those people for certain groups. So understand. Okay. So
let me say one more thing too, is when I saw him, the first thing that came, like I was hearing Canine, Wolf Star, North Star, Sirius, like this repetition of wording that was unfamiliar to me that I didn't really know. Now I have a tattoo of, my first tattoo was a North Star on my shoulder, and wolf is like a big thing for me. And but that canine, wolf, the whole thing, that series of things. And when I heard Sirius, I actually thought Sirius, like this is important Sirius, not serious anything else. And it wasn't until a few days later I had met up with Dr. Brooks Agnew and told him what was going on, because he's a friend. And I was just like, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like I felt like just completely not sure if I was going to be able to stay around. And he was like, well, I know James Rink. He lives up the street. Let me connect you. And so I Googled him, found out that's the guy who did your video, or who recorded it for you that day. And he had a book called The Lone Wolf. So I call him, and I'm like cleaning out, and I could see some of the images I had as like me in all black, like soldier type black, not like, going out to eat black, it's like, very military looking, all black combat boots, the whole thing, and groups of 5. And so anyway, I talked to James on the phone, and I was like, I heard that he had this book called The Lone Wolf. I said, what is up with the wolf? Like, what's the wolf thing? And he was like, well, they would tell you not to leave the wolf pack, and that we were like the lone wolves, but not to be a lone wolf, and that we were in packs. And I had that verified through several people about soldiers, that it would be like 3 or 4 guys to a girl. And as we're cleaning, like I'm cleaning my room because I'm going through closets and stuff, because I'm trying to stay sane while I'm doing, trying to do normal things at the same time. And I find this box that I had bought some things in Montana. When I open it up, it was a wind chime, and I pull it up, and it's 5 wolves, like the heads of a wolf, like all on this wind chime that had been in a box for like 3 years, that I bought at something, years ago. And then I have artwork that reflects like children's eyes with wolf and 333 and stars and planets and specifics about Jupiter and the LOC and things like that. It's just like, I did that in my 20s without any like opening up of those connections to my knowledge. But now, as things are open up, I'm looking at some of even my poetry about time, 10, 12 years old, and writing about time, and writing about time travel, and writing about, there's just a lot of things that it was just like, oh my gosh, these things are just coming together, a little bit more.
You're also an artist. I think you were just sending me some pictures, right? So you also do art?
I don't claim to be an artist at all. I would say that was a way for me to just like get out. I mean, I wrote music for years, and some of it was on the radio. This is before people did like radio books. Now everyone can publish anything and just put it out. But I did, some of that just, I guess, even for therapy, or just to kind of just, I don't know, it was just things inside of me that I would put out. And now I look back, I mean, there was one thing about Jupiter that was pretty specific stuff. And I painted this Jupiter thing and this poem about Jupiter, and I didn't even talk like that. I don't know where that came from. And now I look back and read it, and it's just like, wow, like now I get it. But,
Okay, now I do have. Is it okay if I show one of your
Yeah.
pictures? Because
Yeah.
it kind of relates to what you're saying right now. I think this will work. So just stand by while I do this. But hopefully this will work, and it should be on the screen shortly. It takes kind of a slight delay, I believe. So just wait 1 second.
I see it.
You see it. Okay. I'm hoping I'm waiting for it to show up on the screen. Okay, there it is. So this particular one has a wolf in it. And it's funny because I don't know if you've seen my dog, but she looks like a wolf. She's, she's right here with me. But so it's really funny that, all that. But anyway, so because I definitely have a thing about the, wolves and as well. So it's interesting how certain people connect and then have real similarities in their background. So anyway, as far as now, I'd like to make a transition into your work, because how did you get into, first of all, I guess you got into a very religious thing at some point when you were young, and then you got out of that. And then you got into becoming a naturopath. So can you explain that trajectory and kind of why you think you did all that? It doesn't sound as though your parents were super religious, but where did that come from?
Yeah, I mostly lived in Europe and the northern states, New York, Michigan, Washington State, and Montana mostly. And so I moved to the South at 13 the first time. And down here, you're in the Bible Belt, which is honestly choking everybody. But if you didn't go to church, you didn't have a friend. And I got caught up, I was given a Bible, I was asked if I was saved. I didn't even understand the terminology, and it makes no sense to me now thinking about it. It's like, but it served its purpose. I mean, it kept me, for sure. I mean, I have lots of great admiration for that part of my journey. It got me here. It kept me safe and alive and without doing a lot of stupid things that I could have done. And so I ended up being in full-time ministry, mostly because I would have all these precog type things, and I would tell people about it, and they were like, "Oh, you're prophetic," and they said, kind of put me in a place of having me do that through my work in ministry, is like going and teaching on how to hear God and how to hear source, how to connect with understanding your dreams and visions. And, so I did that for years. It's just teaching on dreams, visions, connecting with source. I ended up getting really sick, mostly because of my diet and my just not living true. And of course, in the meantime, I'm having like encounters with beings coming to my house on a regular or being taken. And this whole time because of my programming, I'm thinking these are, angels, which they are. The word angel just means messenger, but I didn't have a full understanding of the entirety of, all of that, nor the memories. So, they would give me information, and I didn't understand that I was really just time traveling and getting this information and coming back and able to give the information. And we all do some level of that when we sleep, going off wherever. And, if you're tuned in, but I didn't understand the science of it. I wasn't really seeing it in the entirety. And honestly, I probably still am not. Like, I'm not all there I'm not going to say I made it and I know everything, because just when I think I know something, I realize I know absolutely nothing. But one thing I can tell you is I'm 30 different medications because I was feeling like absolute shit. Like, I had gained a bunch of weight. I was they gave me all kinds of stuff, chronic fatigue, fibro, blah, 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 all the things. I was on a plane Thursday to Sunday almost every single week. So usually actually 3 to 6 planes a week, traveling for these conferences that I was teaching in all these countries and here in the States. And that's a lot of wear and tear on your body. And at the time, not a lot of healthy food choices at airports. You know, it was a lot of grab this at the gas station, grab this at the airport. You know, back then it was Doritos, Rice Krispies, soda, whatever. You know, they didn't have like good, healthy choices. Like they're super better now, you know, years later.
Yes.
But I was going through my thing. I'd also had 7 miscarriages, which is another topic that I think it has something to do with something else now. But, you know, I was trying to find out why I was feeling so terrible. And, you know, they kept giving me drugs that have more side effects, to give me more drugs, to give me more side effects. I was over it. I was like, this isn't working. I had zero hope. And then I found a doctor at one of the meetings that I was teaching at. I was teaching a seminar on dreams and visions. And this couple told me about a guy who was really into like energy and like Rife machines and all of these contraptions they had from like Russia and China and Germany, and how he's kind of like an Einstein kind of inventor, you know, whatever. And he's not the normal MD, you know, and I was just like really not thinking anyone could help me, but also like, you could have told me eat ketchup and you'll be better, and I would have done anything. You know what I mean? It's like, so I go see this guy, and he started talking to me about, he put me on all these machines. He taught me about muscle testing, about the body, integrative medicine. He taught a lot about the importance of real essential oils and aromatherapy. It kind of led me to a path of, you know, nutrition supplements and all that, which I had an undergraduate in, and I was actually working on my master's for ministry and divinity, but pulled out because I was just like over the programs. And so I felt to go back to school to actually learn about some of this just for myself, not to open up a clinic and be a doctor, but just to understand me better and to heal myself. And within 16 weeks, I found myself off all my meds. I was, you know, doing liver cleanses and doing green juice and using a whole lot of essential oils and supplements and things, and just making better choices, and lost about 80 pounds really quickly. Wasn't feeling any symptoms anymore. Wasn't having the migraines and all the achy stuff. And so I did go back to school. I remember being on a plane. I was about to go somewhere, and I kept hearing like, go back to school, get your doctorate. And here I was like 30 something. I'm thinking, this is not the time. I got kids, and I'm going to just like go back to school and get a doctorate. Like, how am I going to work? And, you know, but it was so deep inside of me to do this. And I was in the plane, and I look out the window. I'm thinking to myself, God, do you really want me to go back to school to be a doctor, to be an ND, specifically a natural doctor? And I look out the window, and they have these like cone things that give like traffic direction to the people. And some of them are like A, B that way, and 1, 2, 3 that way, or whatever. And it said MD that way, in the direction I was going. And I was like, you are kidding me. So synchronicities and signs are a big, big thing. I get them all the time. That's one of my languages. And so I went back to school for me. And then it turned out, you know, people were coming wanting to know, like, whatever you focus on, you make room for. Right. And so all these people just out of nowhere, what about this? What about this? Can you help me? And so started teaching at conferences and wellness venues and wellness conferences and like technical places. And eventually I did open a clinic here in 2016, but it flooded like 2 months later. We had a huge flood down here, and I got 12 feet of water in my clinic. So I was like, okay, God, you know, I guess I'm going to go back to teaching. So I do a lot of phone consultations, and I do, you know, classes and teaching the social media, write books, do everything I can to get the word out and teach. But I'm like you know, you're for the masses. I'd rather teach like thousands of people a bunch of things than sit and say the same thing over and over again. But I use biofeedback, and then I use my intuition. And part of what I did as a super soldier had to do with, I was a doctor, super soldier. So I do energy stuff through the phone, and people are like really having some great things. I'm able to, I've taught and learned a lot of remote healing and that kind of thing too. And just being able to see where people are. And it surprised me at first. I'm like, really, I could do this long distance? and it was working. So I just kept doing it, you know?
That's great. Well, I think that, you know, that will be of interest to my audience, and you may, you know, I think we have your website, obviously. So it's called swiftfire.org. Is that the right name?
Mm-hmm.
And I have it linked on my page on my website where this is broadcasting out of. But it's also, do you have like a contact form or something where people can contact you if they want to?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. My swiftfire.org, you can get my resources too. Like my latest book is The Science of Miracles. This talks a lot about self-healing from the cells on out to affect the biofield, to not only get better results with dis-ease versus ease, but also how to change negative patterns, because everything that you are, you have a signature code on your DNA, and that DNA goes out in your biofield. The biofield dual two things, radiates out, but also magnetizes back in. So everything you think about, talk about, feel, and then your electric signature DNA that's specific to you and your genes, that is a code that's going out. And so a lot of the things that I know that I learned being in these my lab things, I put in here. And also I literally had a crystal put it on me and downloaded this book in 12 hours. Like, I just was like, okay, you know what? I go into frequency hopping, which is a whole different, there's a lot of tools in there to help people identify where they're at and fix where they're at, so they're not having the same stupid responses, whether it's real physical dis-ease and or patterns in your life, whether it's finances or partnership, or you know, maybe you get you've been trying to buy a house or something, and then at the last minute it doesn't go through for the 5th time, or, you know, when you're starting to see those things that are over and over again, that's a code issue. So if we can change the code, then you can get the outcome that you're actually choosing to get, instead of just not even realizing that you're the source of it. We can shift that. So it goes into that.
Great. Wonderful to hear. So just, I know that we have sort of a time limit today, so don't want to go too long, because I know you have a prior commitment, but we're going to talk again tomorrow, although supposedly you're going to be talking to me, but you know, it could just be a back and forth conversation. But what I want to say is, it sounds like you've had some interactions with off-planet races, maybe inner Earth races. So it would be interesting for people to hear maybe a couple anecdotes, anything that stands out, any kind of remarkable experiences with other beings that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, the one that changed my entire life, including my vocation, was I woke up, walked into my living room. I had very large ceilings in my living room, and when I walked in, there were 2 beings in there that were as tall, almost as tall as the entire living room. They were very iridescent, like they would kind of phase in, phase out, like, and the colors were like light pastel-y Easter color lights flashing, but like, I couldn't grab them or anything, but they were just light. They were literally light. And oh my gosh, I'm going to cry again. It's very emotional, and they did something to recode me, but there were ancient books piled all in the living room, just wall to wall, everywhere. And these were not my books. I mean, maybe they are in a sense. Maybe I sleep with books. I'm reading 6 books all the time, like, and then I go to the next. I'm constantly reading. I'm a very, very fast reader. I take in a lot of information. Although your book, I've had to take. This is only as far as I am right now, and this has been a week for me, and I can only do like this much, and then I cry some more. It's like healing me. It's healing me. But
Thank you.
I'm just saying, there's something that's like literally changing me. But these beings, there was a desk, like an ancient desk, and these old looking books. Now, not dusty, because it's not like old as in disgusting dust, but just, you could tell they looked ancient, and almost like light words coming off of them. And and one of them cracked it open, and I came around to see what's this book about. And the books were just records of all these people, names, who had an issue with physical things and dis-ease, and then they were healed by specifically essential oils or other, there's a lot of essential oils, but nature code, there's things that they were naturally healed of, and then the dates that they were healed. And then it was just record after record after record, and I was overwhelmed. I mean, I still get very emotional. And one of them looked at me, and again, everything is thought, no words. And one says, what do you want? And I remember thinking, I want to be a part of that. And they slammed the book, and they got really serious. And one of them, who I refer to as True, I don't know her real name. I just named her that because there was everything in her was so true. Like, she was just the epitome of truth. And she looked at me really serious, and she pointed and she said, tell them they're not truly living unless they're living true. And when she said that, everything in me like felt like I was going to burst into nothing. Like, I still get emotional even saying anything about her. And she's come to me several times since, but that thing, and then they poofed, they were gone. And within like 2 or 3 days, I was listening to this CD called The Missing Link. It's about DNA and epigenetics, and, you know, and I get a call from this lady I hadn't heard from 6 years. And she's like, I feel like I'm supposed to tell you that the missing link is here, that this is a part of your path. It doesn't look like anything you thought you were going to do, but this is important. Go ahead and take those steps. And this is when I was thinking about going back to school, and I just kept getting sign after sign after sign after sign. And then I get a call from my grandmother, and they had struck oil. You know, I knew it was something to do with oil. And so it was just all these things with oils, essential oils, crystals, which, you know, went against my religion, honestly. So again, that was a big step for me to move away from these cultural programs and just be like, know what, nature, grass, dirt, earthing, crystals. Crystals are amazing energy being. You can program them to do everything. They are your favorite. It can be your friends, you know, they can, anyway, but,
sure.
So
Absolutely.
So that was, you know, that's one of my bigger ones. And, you know, and just now, I think my message, I know my message changed from that moment on a cellular level to living true in everything that I do. I knew that she wasn't saying, you know, live true, like, does my hair look okay? You know, be honest. You know, it wasn't like, you know, do I need to lose weight? You know, not white lie, true kind of deal. But I knew truth was an energy. It was an authenticity. It was who you're with, what you're doing, who you're hanging out with, what you eat, what you drink, whatever you do. Do you go to the gas station right now or in 20 minutes? Like, very down to each and every second that you have. We all get the same 24 hours a day, but living true to the nth degree of what you're thinking about, what you're feeling, what you're putting your energy to. Do you drink enough water? Are you exercising? You know, how are you raising your children? You know, what are you watching on TV, or do you even watch TV? What kind of music are you listening to? Are you having fun? Are you playing? You know, sometimes we just need to play for no reason because there's an energy to that. And when we're not in our truth, there's a dissonance in our body that causes dis-ease. When we're in our truth, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but when you are in truth and you stay and you make the decisions day after day, time after time to live true, then you will stay above the snake line. You will keep your vibration, and everyone will have to submit to that. You will actually ignite others to truth by the very authenticity of your truth vibration. Of you being truth actually gives the courage for other people to also be true. And we can do this on a collective with every post on Facebook, with every video, with every interaction that you have with someone at the store or the gas station or the post office, of just smiling at people and loving people all the way into their selves. And for me, it's just been a big shift of teaching people how to remember. That's why the book is called The Science of Miracles, Remembering the Frequency of Love, because the frequency that we have is true, but to remember and remember meaning one body, but also this body, all of us as a collective, to remember with source, remind, and to stay in love. Remember that there's no separation, that we are one collective group, and we can change the world, literally, whether it's politics or anything that you're seeing on the planet. We can shift all this, and we don't even need the majority. We just need enough to make a tipping point of everyone doing the little minute version of yourself. You know, Trump's doing whatever he's doing, and we think, oh my God, we can never do that. It doesn't matter. Do what you're supposed to do in your truth and your version, whether it's to take courage to say no, or to not do that thing, or not go that place, or to go this place, and keep doing that. And you will build a collective with the whole place, and we shift things.
Absolutely. Okay. Very well said. And thank you for all of that. So at this time, I'm not going to have this go on much longer per our agreement, but I wanted you to have enough time to say whatever it is you want to say. And we can you'll be back tomorrow anyway, but we could, if there's things that you forgot or you wanted to add in tomorrow, we can put those in. Is there anything specific about let's talk about what's happening now? Because you're a precog, so you see things in the future. And so anything you want to talk about, maybe, I know we don't have tons of time, but you could revisit it tomorrow if you want, but if you wanted to bring anything forward before I let you go today.
Yes. Great question. I started getting stuff from True in 2007 about Trump. Politics was not even anywhere in anything I thought about. I was in my 20s. I didn't even know the difference between Republican and Democrat. I had no shits about it, to be honest. I knew he was a guy on TV. I know he made a lot of money. But I was told that he had a Cyrus anointing. I had no idea what that meant. I had to Google it. It came up with a chapter in the Bible in Isaiah that talked about a king, Cyrus, who basically worked for no money and freed captives and got the whole world to work together. And kings that were doing things they shouldn't be doing, basically came to him and recognized his authority and subjected to him. And there's a lot more that he was called and chosen and anointed. So I was just like, okay. And look, you have to understand, anytime I get anything from True, this is like something that you can bank on, and then I have to pay attention. And I did pay attention. And so I actually blogged about it, talked about it back then. Several times there's been other things where actually Donald Trump came in a dream right before his election. He came and basically walked me to a place in my house. He had my hand. He's a ginormous man. And he looked up, threw his hands in the air, and with almost tears in his eyes was saying, help me make America great again. Help me make, not to me, but just like to something in the air. He was just yelling it. And I remember feeling very small next to him, looking up at him, going, no one would believe this. Like, just thinking how passionate he was, like how really serious he was. And like, I was just thinking, I could tell everyone and no one will even think he's for real. I just was thinking, this is amazing. And I woke up very emotional. I've had several more with Ivanka now. I know that he carries code that shifts where we're at right now. He's a key, literally. He's a ginormous active key that to some people completely messes with all their programming. And so, some people short circuit because they're just like, they don't know what to do with that. I actually went to Washington, D.C. on purpose. I shared some of this with you off camera because I know about the biofield. I know about code. And I knew if I was in anything having to do with his arena of biofield, that would help turn some things on for me to even understand more. I went to Trump Tower. I went and stayed at his hotel. Like, anything I could do to just connect with the code And then actually because I was blogging about some of these things, someone had contacted me and asked if I would come to Florida to meet with him and discuss some of these things that I was getting, which I thought was just crazy. I mean, how anyone even saw it or why anyone would want me to do that. But I was actually in New Zealand at the time, and it was a thing that was happening already. To get there from New Zealand, I was already committed, and in my mind I was like, what about next week or the week after that, or and there was a group of people that were all meeting together for this thing. I believe it was September, right before the election, and I might have been anyway. So I didn't get to go. I always thought that I would. They asked me, can you please just write everything down and send it to these people? So I did, and they said they promised they would hand deliver it. Now, whether he got it, I don't know. I was told.
No, but this was, just to clarify, this was a religious group that was going to meet with or trying to meet with Trump. Is that correct?
Yes, and they did. They did meet,
okay.
Including a couple of my friends were there. I say friends. I'm very specific with my words. I wouldn't say they're friends. I would say people that I knew that were colleagues that I've worked with before were there. And several kind of like celebrity type ministry people, that's probably not a good way to explain it, but more what recognized and in the public type ministry people were there praying for him and just giving him, which I love prayer. Prayer is the best. It's like he needs all the prayer for sure with what, I mean, he's had several assassination attempts and different things that have happened, and we need to keep him. We need him. Like, this is important, very important. He is tremendously important for what we're doing. And I mean, I get people who are just like, I can't believe and la la la, and I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm public. I don't care. I'm not going to back down. I don't care what anyone thinks. You don't have to like me. The truth is still the truth. And this is a very important season. We're in a timeline war. If, I personally believe that Barron's been back and forth. Probably Trump's been back and forth for a long, long time. He's understanding things with Tesla. He wants to declassify things with Tesla. He wants free energy. He wants med beds. He wants some things that he has had to slowly try to do what he can do, even in the face of Congress and all the things, and just the onslaught of programming and brainwashing that goes on with the CNN, CIA, Mockingbird bullcrap. And just the vibration, energy, the psychic attack alone. I don't know how. I mean, he's steel, like this man. I mean, he's not, but he's not normal. He's just not. And, it doesn't take away the humanity of who he is, or Melania or his family. And so it is important that we keep him in light and prayer. But also, he was perfectly hand chosen for this season and time. And God bless America. God bless the world. And I swear to God, these people will have their day some way freaking time. You cannot keep doing this over and over and over, not just with the children, but with the lying, the crimes, I just watched 2 debates that were absolutely infuriating to me. The lying. Oh my God, don't even. And it's just like, there has to be an end where this comes back. It will come back, and they will get it. They won't even know what happened, but it will come back. And we have got to just keep on focusing on the light and the love and what's right. And I have to watch myself not being baited into anger or judgment.
Sure. Because
it pisses me off so bad. And my husband was yelling at the TV last night. I was like, baby, but, I have to keep that whole prayer, and, all these other people that I know you've interviewed have a different thing that, everything's in the bag and all this stuff. And that would be super great if JFK is coming back and all Nasara happens. And, if it does, great. And if it doesn't, great. I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. All I know is to do what I know to do in my version every single day and keep on sharing truth. I think God has to be in action. And I don't like when there's so much like, oh, it's all done, then everyone could just sit back and do nothing. No, God is in action. There's an action to God, and there's choices to be made. and we get to make those choices. So just me.
Lovely. Okay. Very, very well said. Okay, Sharnael, it's, wonderful to connect with you, have you here, and be able to do this with you, after you've interviewed me, now to get to know you more and better, and also have you come out to the audience more. So we'll meet again tomorrow at 1 p.m. It'll be 1 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow, if that's okay. And we'll continue this. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and for speaking your truth and the words of truth. And, I'm not one of those all truthers or relative kind of people. I think there's real truth. So thank you again for being here and sharing the truth. So it was really wonderful. And it's wonderful that you're so open and you're so willing to share, your emotional life with everyone. I think that's a gift. And, so please continue to be who you are. All right. So take care, everyone, and we'll be back.
Awesome. Bless you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So I think I'm kind of new to doing things on Zoom right now. So thank you for watching. I hope that all of this worked. And please take care, and we'll be back. And I did sort of write something on my website. So if you will go to my website, and you'll see my article about my YouTube channel and how threatened it is at this time. And it's just like this video. I have no idea if they're going to target it or not. But right now I'm using my very small YouTube. It's my alternate, because I'm banned from my main one for another day or two. And then I'll be back on there if I want to, but I don't know if they'll give me a strike, and then they'll take down my whole channel. So we're really at a very important juncture right now with regard to YouTube. I'm asking for people to help. And if you are one of those people that's targeted on YouTube, if you know any lawyers that might want to take on this class action suit, please read my article and contact me on my email address. All right. Thank you, everyone, and take care. Bye-bye. Okay, now I have to